Why are energy bills so bloody high? We're going to check it out today. There's a lot of myths running around, a lot of politics. We're just going to tell you why they're so high. You get that feeling when you open your energy bill. When you get the letter, you go, oh no, sense of doom. And then when you open it, your sense of doom is confirmed. You go, oh no, it is so high. Well, I'm going to tell you today. We're going to follow the money, follow the evidence, and dismiss the political myths. Now let's cut to the chase. The main reasons bills are so high, power bills are so high, is the price of gas and coal. Yes, that's right. It's not renewables. We're going to show you very clearly. In fact, let's do it now. Let's go straight to Open Electricity. Put the link in the description and you can just check it out week by week, almost day by day. If you have a look at this, we're talking the week of 1 to 7 December 2025. And here we are, the price of rooftop solar, negative $4.23, that's per megawatt hour. Solar for utilities is for $4.59. Now it's spring, so the prices are very low in spring, and we just hit more than half the grid is renewable energy, so it's happening anyway. So when you hear in the Murdoch press and from the coalition that it's all Labor's fault, it's not. We're going to get into what Labor can be blamed for. They're not Snow White either. But if you have a look at this, what's the price of gas? Let's have a look. There we go, $111.24 or $85.91, depending on what kind of gas it is. Let's have a look at coal. Here we go. Black coal is $62.19, and brown coal, lignite, the cheapest, dirtiest coal, is $48.62. So they're more than double. The price of gas is more than triple. The price of coal is more than double that of RE. Now, wind is $41.37. So wind is much more expensive than solar, but it's still cheaper in this week than coal and much cheaper than gas. So we're going to dismiss the fairy tales. The first thing I'd say is that it's a done deal anyway. Renewables are with us. Emissions are coming down thanks to renewables. And renewables, it's a done deal. It's now, last month, we were the only ones who couldn't see anybody else singing it from the rooftops. 50.1% of the grid, more than half the grid for the first time, renewable energy generation. Not coal, not gas, renewables. At the height of summer and the depth of winter, the story could be a little bit different, but the trend is irrevocable. It is undeniable. Fossil fuels are on the way down in terms of their contribution to the energy grid, and renewable energy is happening. So let's go into the politics of it. Now, the politics of it is interesting because, as you know, when you get bill shock, it's an easy one. People don't really understand why their bills are so high, so we're going to give that to you today. Now, if the coalition were honest, they would point to this data that we're showing you now, and they'd say, wow, look, how expensive is coal and gas? Yes, they still go into our energy bills in a big way, but they've doubled since Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. So when you open up your power bill, the main reason is the rise. The main reason for your power bill being so expensive now compared to 5 years ago is the price of coal and gas. Now, the other main reason, and this is more difficult to pinpoint, and we're going to go there in a sec, is profiteering by the corporations that control and that contribute to the grid, the profit from the grid. The profits are going to shareholders. They're not going to poor old energy bill payer me or you. That's where they're going. Now, this is inconvenient, this narrative. This is why the coalition is ignoring it. You can blame Labor for lots of things, and actually, Labor are just about to come out with their and this is really important, we just hope that they're going to do what they've said they're going to do, which is bring in a domestic gas reservation scheme, because that will help lower the price of gas. We're not holding out too much hope here, because if you look at their track record, it's all half measures. We're going to do this, and they rarely do what they're going to say. But, small steps. So let's hope there are some decent small steps. Now, if either of the parties were to delve into this data that we're going to show you in a moment too deeply, they wouldn't delve into it too deeply, because they would be forced to make a confession. Labor will be forced to confess to mismanagement. They're in government, they are managing the grid, and they are responsible for high energy prices. There is no doubt. But this is a gimme for the coalition particularly, because they're just saying, wow, bills are high, it's Labor's fault. And it's all renewables, because look at renewables, they're going up everywhere. There's terrible wind farms and solar panels. I mean, it's an easy one for people that don't understand. I mean, back in the day, and I have some sympathy for the farmers that are going, we don't want these great big transmission towers going through our properties. Because back in the day, we know the big coat hangers that went through the properties were transmitting energy for the grid that we enjoy and use today. That's just reality. That's going to be a lot of heartache in resolving the arguments around where these new transmission lines actually go. But that's not the point of today. The point of today is to dismiss this myth, because this will be with us for many years now, because they can easily say, look, the prices are so high, it's Labor's fault, and it's coal and gas are great, and there's these terrible renewables which are causing the problem. Well, it's not. It's coal and gas. We're not moving quickly enough. This is the problem. Now, Labor is about to start bulk billing gas from East Coast producers and selling it to local producers at discounted rates. Well, that is ridiculous, and that's why they've been forced into this situation now. But they're going to force the gas profiteers, that's the Chevrons and Exxons and Santos and Origin and the Brits, they're going to force them not to export all their gas, but to earmark a bit for domestic consumption, and that will bring the prices down, because the problem is we're paying the same amount for gas as the Japanese are 17,000 kilometres away. What does it mean though, this latest headline here? It means Labor's using our money effectively to buy our gas from foreign corporations, or at least companies with majority foreign shareholding such as Origin, to subsidise local businesses. That's what that means. They don't pay much tax, they don't pay much PRRT, they don't pay much royalty in the way of royalties. They are completely conning the nation of Australia, as they have for many years, and Labor is powerless. Why? Why don't they have the gumption to tax these corporations, to charge enough royalties to the companies which are ripping us all off? It's because, follow the money, it's because they're all big political donors, and their lobbyists are running around Canberra the entire time telling their story. Now, so it's all political narratives. Let's just have a look at the chain. I'm going to show you some more figures in a sec, but the chain, how is energy actually generated? Okay, so we've got the generators, the transmission companies, the distributors, the retailers, and the gentailers. We're going to go through each of them so you understand. The generators are those companies which generate coal, gas, wind, hydro, solar. They're the generators. They make the stuff at the source in coal-fired power plants or in wind farms or solar farms. And then you've got the transmission companies. These are mostly privatised. Don't think so in Queensland, but elsewhere. They're the ones with the big coat hangers, where the coat hangers run up through the middle of the country, and they take that energy generation to the distributors. The distributors, they're all the same people sometimes, there's vertical integration. The distributors are the companies which, they're the poles and wires companies with the local terminals around the suburbs. They distribute down the street to the house. And then you've got the retailers. The retailers are the ones which give you the bills. They're the ones. There's heaps of those. There's mainly three though. There are three big retailers, and they are called the gentailers because they generate, distribute and retail energy. Those are AGL, Origin and EnergyAustralia. EnergyAustralia controlled in Hong Kong. And let's get back to why it's costing us so much. So there are a lot of mouths to feed in this whole chain of energy generation to distribution to retailing. A lot of mouths. And that's because 30 years ago, governments began to privatise it. They sold the grid to a whole lot of different players. And they've all got their own finance department, HR, PR, management, executive suites, fleets of cars, expenses accounts, all of them. So it's a huge sort of constellation of gravy trains, if you like, and a lot of our bills are soaked up in costs associated with corporate players profiteering. But to get to the main reason, again, that our bills are so high, it's not renewables, as you can see from the figures we've just showed you. When Putin invaded Ukraine in 2021, coal, that's black coal, was $66 per megawatt hour, lignite was 46, gas CCGT 81, and gas OCGT was 190. That's before the invasion in January 2022. Now the price of power doubled in that year, in 2022. Yes, we've been filling it for 4 years. Thermal power generation has gone up, this is coal, has gone up 100 to 200% in the 4 years from 2021 to today. The readers might wonder, why has the price of lignite, that's brown coal, generation in Victoria, more than doubled? These are old, cheap, the coalition says, coal-fired power, so base load power. Problem with these old clunkers is that they break down, so they're not very efficient. But it's a reasonable question. Why has the price of lignite, that's brown coal, generation in Victoria more than double when there's precisely zero exports of lignite? It's not like gas, where we pay the export price parity, which is a real problem because gas also is used for peak power and they can sell into the gas grid, these foreign guys that control the gas grid, the gas generation, they can sell into the grid at whatever price they like almost. It's very irritating for AEMO, the Australian Energy Market Operator, but they can. We're being totally ripped off by the gas producers. So why is the price more than doubled in the last 4 years of this brown coal? And the answer is that utilities are using their oligopoly power to extract extra profits from us. Have a look at the share prices, AGL, Origin, EnergyAustralia's in British Virgin Islands, Hong Kong and UK, but have a look at the share prices. So meantime, while all this is going on, rooftop solar is exactly the same, $33 per megawatt hour. And utility, more or less the same thing. It's game over, job done. These are the figures that you can rely on to tell your cranky sky-watching uncle at Christmas time when he tries to argue about baseload power, irritated after a few clarets with his red wine face, regurgitating what he's heard on Sky News. It's all renewables' fault. It's simply the opposite. The opposite is true, and the facts bear that out. And it's all over anyway. It's going to happen. Of course, there are costs of transition. Of course, things happen with wind and solar which aren't great. There's batteries blow up and things like that. But this is happening. And it's going to be cheaper when it's all over because wind and sun are free. So once it's all over, power bills will be cheaper unless the government totally stuffs it up, which they're doing at the moment by not managing this corporate profiteering. Now wind, you'll notice that wind doesn't look that cheap. Let's have a look at it. $47 per megawatt hour in the latest week. So it hovers in the low 40s. It has for some time. But compared to hydro, compared to gas, compared to coal, it's much cheaper. Except for brown coal's close, but still more expensive. So wind is still... Now, why is wind much more expensive than solar? Because of the costs of construction. We've seen also, just if you look at the building industry, the costs of construction in building have gone through the roof in the past 5 years. And so wind, likewise, they have to pay for their steel, they have to pay for their various inputs, their construction costs. That's why wind is more expensive than solar. So there's a deflation. A radical deflation over 2 decades in the cost of new renewable energy. And in wind, it's not because the price of the technology has gone up or the wind itself has become more expensive. It's just construction costs. So renewable energy sources are between a quarter and half the average price of the national electricity market in 2025. And we note that renewables also were 41% of power generation in the NEM in fiscal 2025. It just tipped 50 in November. But that means 59% of our power generation came from fossil fuels. So obviously if the cost of fossil fuels, gas and coal, is super high, and it's almost 60% of contribution to the energy grid, then our power bills will be higher. And that's what's happened. It's gas and coal. They are the problems. Not, note well, coalition, not the solution. Now, you won't hear this, of course, in Sky because they don't like looking at figures. They only have their own experts on, like Matty Canavan and Barnaby Joyce, who would never have gone near this thing in their life because it will be too confronting for them. So thank you to Island Optical and Optical Warehouse for financing our journalists, for helping to finance our journalists, that is. It's very important because this sort of stuff takes time to go through. And please like, share and comment in the section below. If you can poke holes in this data, we'd love to hear from you.